Okay, folks, I want to do a little video here and share a little bit of information concerning, some satellite systems and different things. And more specifically, I also want to share a little bit more information about suborbitals and stuff like that because China has their own version of a suborbital as well, not just the X-37 top secret space plane. And here's the thing, the ESA also has their version, and several other companies have their own versions of these suborbitals. And I think it's very curious to me because I've been researching this stuff for a long time, for decades. I've been researching into these satellite systems and stuff before SpaceX, folks. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that there were actually people that were interested in and researching satellite systems and space planes and space based solar collection systems and things that they were developing, doing research and development on back through the 60s? Okay, it's nothing new. This whole thing about solar power and all of this stuff, it's really not anything new. They've been researching and developing this stuff since the 60s for space based solar collection systems, okay? And I knew, all right, I knew that NASA had the X-37s out there. I knew they existed. But even let me, you know, there I have this video here, folks. This was the video that I had taken. This was back in 2019 when I had captured this, and I had sent this in to several different people wanting answers, and I've never gotten any reply from any of the agencies or anyone concerning what this was. But you know what? When I broke this down and I was looking at this closer, you have to look really close. And that maybe I'll do another video and show the different parts of it. But if you look close, you can see the shadow and the outline of an aircraft. Okay. And back when I presented this on my channel that was deleted before, the information about X-37B was still classified. They were still denying it. They were still denying back in 2019, according to my research, they were still denying that the X-37Bs existed. Well, guess what, folks? The following year in 2022, you look at this little list here and consider the source. As I know it's Wikipedia. You always have to consider the source with Wikipedia. But I find this interesting that if you scroll down here to number 292, classified, unknown, it was a CubeSat deployed by a Boeing X-37 space plane. What do you know? And it was unannounced until 2020. So they finally had to come out and admit that they had been drifting and floating these suborbitals, and the X-37 was actually the X-37B was actually real. And, you know, people like me, we've never gotten any kind of reconciliation back throughout the 90s and the early 2000s telling people that these things existed. We've never gotten any kind of reconciliation from those folks. Guess what? Because those folks had just disappeared. As soon as they had to finally out with it and say that it actually does exist and it's real, and they've announced it finally, those people, where are you at? People that the NRO and the National Reconnaissance Office has got spy satellites and stuff up there doing things. Does anybody care? Oh no, that's just science fiction. That's not real. Those things don't exist. Well, you know what? After a certain amount of time elapses, there's a lot of these files and things and classified information and classified documents on their little experiments and their little R&D groups that were started back in the early 40s and extended through into the 60s. Well, after 50, 60 years or so, that information became unclassified and available to the people. And guess who was out there gathering up information, folks? Okay, so before I get on a bigger rant, the information is out there. The NRO is very, very active, and I find it very, very curious. They glorify This stuff now, they glorify it. And SpaceX is helping to glorify it. Like I said, I've been researching these satellite systems and all of that stuff that date back to the early 40s, folks. Some of the documents and information that I have stored and printed date back to the 40s, okay? Back around the time when something fell out of the sky in Roswell, New Mexico. Yeah, but I'm not gonna go there right now in this video. I want to I want to also share a little, something else from this here. Where was it at? Let's see. It was there's the X37. There it is. Sun synchronous orbit. Okay, this I find curious. Number 311311, 4/26/2021. Optical reconnaissance. National Reconnaissance Office launch. Entered service, presumed active in a sun synchronous orbit. And you can look up what sun synchronous orbit is, but you know, I find that curious. A sun synchronous orbit. And again, in case nobody doesn't know, this video that I'm showing here was a capture from September 9th, as the sun was rising and as the sun was moving towards us from the east. Right there. My little AI morning star. I am the eye in the sky. That's really what I was talking about with indistinguishable on some of these things, because they've disrupted that flow of energy that flows right directly into our brains from the moment that we're conceived, I believe. Anyway, from the moment that our brainstem receives that electrical signal, we're connected to something beyond this ground level, eco space here in this system down here. And if they have been able to disrupt and hijack those signals, then what's to say that they can't really, um, once they got those signals into their little computer boxes where they're introducing all this artificial intelligence, what's to say that there aren't some people going around that were born at a time when their electrical signals were actually more artificial than real? I'm not going to get all into that. Anyway, stuff. I have a lot of these files that are already saved. A lot of them are, especially on the, yeah, this file here, that the official history of early signals collection is pretty interesting, and there's a lot of information out there. Oh yeah, that's right. The U.S. Spy Satellite Agency gives NASA two space telescopes back in 2012. Hmm. Two space telescopes that are almost identical to the Hubble, but but they weren't. But they didn't use them though. Okay. The two spy satellite telescopes were originally built to fly space-based surveillance missions for the National Reconnaissance Office (NRO), but will be repurposed by NASA for astronomical research instead. Mm-hmm. Sure it is. And their donation to NASA was revealed in a surprise announcement. Surprise! Here you go, NASA. Here's two spy satellites that are almost identical to the Hubble. Yeah, but the one that they just recently put up there, that's not one of those, though. Don't worry, folks. That recent one, Not one of these. This is an interesting book, The Electronic Eye. If you haven't already read it, look into it. The Rise of Surveillance Society, David Lyon, and this was put out in 1994. And it's very interesting read, and I would suggest people read it if you haven't already. The Electronic Eye, The Rise of Surveillance Society. Because, like I said, I've been researching into these satellite systems and these kind of things for a very long time, since before SpaceX started making it seem cool. See, I was back researching it at a time when it wasn't cool. Back at a time when people didn't want to believe that these things were in existence. Okay. And like I said, there's no reconciliation for people like me that 20, 30 years ago were trying to tell people that these things were going on and that they had these things up there. And we were told that we were nut jobs. No, science fiction doesn't exist. Well, guess what? Where are all y'all at now? That's my question. All right. And there's so many other questions as well. And as far as the suborbital thing, you can go through and you can look up a list of spacecraft manufacturers. They put all the information out there, but again, consider the source. Scroll down to the reference points. Go outside of that Wikipedia source and go to their sources, and you will find the information is there that would suggest that they are indeed doing a lot of things up there. There should be nothing classified. There should be nothing hidden from the public eye. We are down here at ground level, at ground zero. All right. They do not own that space up there. And the fact that they have been marketing it and selling off that space and developing what they've been developing for so long, and everybody just thinks that it's so cool now, all of a sudden it's cool. I'm not I'm not in the business of promoting and helping them to spy on us. More specifically, I'm not interested in investing in, and I do not consent in them putting up these space based solar collection systems. Because I want you to think about that, folks, okay? And this was another article that was talking about the Dream Chaser while they launched their little model from the Sierra Nevada Corporation. And here's another interesting file. I'll put a link in the description from the FAA, the Annual Compendium of Commercial Space Transportation from 2012. We're talking a decade ago when they put this together. Okay. And again, I'm just going to scroll down. You can, read through the whole thing yourself. I have. I wanted to show just more information on the suborbital factor, because I was saying that these things were in existence for a long time, and I had so many people, including so called space engineers and people who claim to be experts in satellite systems and all of this stuff, telling me that they didn't exist. Okay, but they do. They do. And they have some that are in LEO, which is low Earth orbit. All right. And again, US commercial orbital launch vehicles. These are all things that they approve. I don't remember voting on it. I don't remember a time when we were given the option to say whether or not we wanted this stuff up there or not, or whether or not we wanted to participate in all this exploration outside of our own immediate ecosystem. Because you know what? There's so much here that is left to explore right here. That's my take on it. And I'm not knocking people's dreams. I'm not knocking that. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But you have to understand there is opposition to it. And the fact that they're coming along and they're glorifying it with all of these, you know, history programs and all of these other programs that make it seem like it's just so great and awesome. Y'all need to realize that they're talking about developing these space-based solar collection systems, which ultimately, at the bottom line, what they do and what their main objective is to sit up there in between us here at ground level and all of that energy that flows up there in the upper spaces, our solar energy and all of the energy that comes from anything else that is natural. They are disrupting that flow with these machines. All right. So when we talk about this flow of energy and this consciousness that comes from the outer space up there, you have to realize that the natural energy and the natural flow that used to come through and make its way down here to ground level to us and into our electrical systems in our brains and in our minds and in our immediate environment has been disrupted. It's been hijacked, so to speak, because they put those things up there. And here's how it works: they put those things up there between us and the outer space, that energy that normally would have been just right directly coming right down into us and into our atmosphere and into our ecosystem is being hijacked up there. And then once it's hijacked, it's being processed through their programs and through their computer systems and their computer chips, and then it's being redirected back down here to Earth. And then we are getting access to that energy. They have disrupted the flow of natural energy from those upper spaces decades ago. So when I said the other day that indistinguishable, that's what I meant. It's indistinguishable, not like something that is within anybody's full control. It's indistinguishable, excuse me, because that signal, those signals and those energies and those frequencies and those waves that we used to receive from those upper spaces have been hijacked for decades. And if you were not born before they were able to really disrupt and hijack and redirect all of those signals, you are not going to be familiar with, and your biological entity in your existence is not going to recognize the natural ones when they do break through. Because despite all of their efforts of putting these suborbitals and these space-based energy collection systems and then redirecting it back down to Earth, you know, it's before they put all of that stuff up there, they had already accounted for the variables. They had already been researching and developing this stuff since the 40s. And before they put it up there, they already had accounted for the variables. So over the last like 5 or 6 decades, their main focus has been to be able to overcome those variables, to overcome the points where nature comes in and says, no, you're not going to do that. You know, they go over here and they poke and they prod and they do something over here, and then nature starts fighting back and nature starts to overpower them. So then they start research and development in the way to conquer nature's adverse, you know what I mean? You see, it's a cycle. And over the last 5 or 6 decades, their main focus has been to overcome those variables and those natural events that occur as a result of what they are creating. So they have disrupted that signal from the energy that flows from up there in outer space for decades now. So I just, you know, I'm getting flustered again, folks. I'm sorry. I just wanted to put out some more information on there on the suborbitals. More specifically, you know, these ones that are used for spying on us. It's it's very curious to me that the NRO gifts NASA these two space telescopes that are almost identical to the Hubble. And they say that they weren't going to use them, but then they ended up using them, but they'll repurpose them in 2024 for astronomical research, and said, if you don't think they're pulling a fast one on us, then you really, really need to wake up. Sorry, folks. I can't play along with it. I can't play along with that. And I find it so curious that up until 2020, when they finally had to confess that the X-37s were real, people like me were getting just demolished by people on the platforms. And again, no reconciliation for it, because we went from, oh, these things don't exist, to now, oh, these things are awesome. I just can't play along, folks. And it's after I captured this thing drifting through like this, and then I did my research and started looking into things a little bit more, for them to come out less than a year after I captured this drifting through our skies and presented it to the online community, less than a year, they finally come out and they say the X-37 is real. I just can't, folks. So I hope that you understand a little bit more what I'm saying when I talk about satellite systems and things, because I've been researching this stuff. Like I said, because I'm repetitive, I'm going to say it again. I've been researching this stuff about satellite systems since before SpaceX, if you can imagine that. And I don't consent. I never have, and I don't believe I ever will. I don't believe that anybody is ever going to convince me that we need to expend all of these resources that we expend to put those things up there that are beaming and microwaving us and using laser radars. It's technology that I believe has been around for a very, very long time. And a very long time ago, a lot of things happened where they were playing around with things, and a lot of very bad things happened, and a lot of the uh, the blueprints, so to speak, were destroyed. And it's been a painful process to get it back. And right now, we are in the experimental stages of things that had already occurred, that had already caused catastrophic events a long time ago. And I can't support it. We have so much down here at ground level. We have our oceans. So much to explore right here. But no, it's like the Truman Show. We've already seen everything here there is to see. We need to go way out there, and we need to put thousands of these little nano CubeSats and these things up there above your heads and just drift them above you and beam everybody with stuff and intercept all of those signals and everything coming from out the upper outer atmosphere and from our thermosphere. We need to intercept that, and we need to make it better for humanity before we send those signals back down to Earth. I just can't. Sorry, folks. Yeah, end this one now. Links in the description. Oh, wait a minute. One more thing I wanted to share. Some of the mission patches. This is one of them from the National Reconnaissance Office for their satellite systems. It it's supposed to stand for better the devil that you know, right? As opposed to the devil that you don't know. So in other words, it doesn't matter how you're looking at it, you got the devil. I just can't. Wants me to get down on my knees and close my eyes, bow my head, and turn my cheek up into the sky and kiss my ass goodbye. Yeah, anyway, this is that video I was talking about from August 17th of 2019. And, like I said, because I'm repetitive, I'll say it again. I reported this to several different agencies and they just chose to ignore. I still have yet to get any kind of a reply or a response or any acknowledgement, even that I, brought this to their attention as it was drifting through. And, guess what happens when you just ignore people like me? You leave me no other choice but to look for information on my own to try to come to a logical conclusion as to what this was that drifted through our skies. Okay? You left me no choice but to investigate and look into it and look into all the possibilities as to what this could have been. So, what other choice did I have? You want to completely ignore me, and now I'm coming to my own conclusions based on what I'm seeing and based on my own research. I'm seeing what looks like the profile of one of those space planes down here at the very bottom. And I pulled out some of these extracts. I'll show you. It's right in through there. right in through here. And again, it's another one of those instances where I'm capturing stuff in the sky and insects and bugs will come flying through right in a spot where, there's something going on. That's almost like they're saying, look at this, look at this. And here's the little object that was drifting through. There was like this little silvery looking reflective orb thing that kind of drifted down really slowly through this. But again, it's one of those things where I'm left with no other choice but to come to my own conclusion. And right in through here is where it looks like the outline and the profile of one of those space planes. There's like two of the tips coming down here, interacting with the vapor clouds, and it looks like the nose cone right through here. And it's almost as if it's drifting through upside down with its bay doors open. And you can see there's these spikes coming up right in through here too that look like some kind of a spike off of an aircraft or something in through there. And I pulled out some of the extracts. I'll look at them a little bit closer and show you what I'm talking about. It's right down in through here, right at the base of this whole big old structure thing. And to me, it kind of looks like the shape and the outline of one of the space planes. Like more specifically, the Dream Chaser. Right there's that spot where the insect comes through. Right there. And it's almost like it's saying, look right here. This is where it is, right here. And it looks kind of like the outline to me of the Dream Chaser. And there's the insect right there. I can get the magnifier back out again. Coming right through, right down in this area here, where, it looks like the shadow and the outline of a nose cone, and then the wingtips through there. There we go. The mouse is getting all touchy again. It's starting to get really, really hot. I mean, this Mac is so hot right now. It's really hot to the touch. Yeah. And then right down in here is where I'm talking about, where it kind of looks like the shape and the outline of one of those suborbital spaceplane things. Let me adjust this down a little bit, see if I can get that shadow, that darker shadow to show up there. Maybe I can get this reverse. You can kind of see some of the wingtip kind of sticking out right in through here. There's one wingtip right there, and then another one right there. And then you kind of see a little bit of the round outline of that. But there's very sharp lines throughout this whole thing here. And let me get rid of that because I want to do one last thing before I end this video. That's kind of what I was talking about when I said it was kind of drifting through it. Now this is the image right here. Let me get this. I'm going to pull this out. Make this a little bigger. And then I want to adjust the color on this one here too and see if I can just get those fins to pop. Just the shadow of the fins there. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now hang on, stay with me. I'm going to rotate this, and then one more time I'm going to flip it like that. There we go. Okay, so now this shadow outline right here is the shadow outline of their this X-37B craft. You can kind of see the outline right there. Let me adjust this color a little bit on that one. Darken that part down a little bit. There we go. Let me get rid of that. And then I'm going to pull that section out real quick again. Here we go. And then right there you can kind of see a little bit of a resemblance of these fins. See how this fin sticks down right here and right here? This kind of has those same fins sticking down right there and right there. Only this is back like that. And now you can see those fins are aimed in this direction. I just, when you completely ignore my request for wanting answers and stuff, I'm left to no choice but to come up to my own conclusions, do my own research. And that's what I believe that this was that came through back on August 17th of 2019. And I don't think I was supposed to have captured it, but it looks like maybe it could have been, maybe it was in distress. I don't know. Maybe it was having issues trying to collect and maintain and harness some of that really intense energy that's up there. And maybe they were like in distress here. I don't know. You're leaving me no choice but to try to come to my own conclusions, and I'm not just going to let it go, because you're not just going to drift this kind of stuff over my head and then I'm just going to ignore it and say, oh, well, it must be aliens or something, And again, I mean, no offense to anybody by saying that, but I don't believe that this was aliens. I don't believe that was anything that was necessarily out of this world. And I have a problem with these research and development programs testing these technologies and this kind of stuff in the public domain now. There's a quote from Lockheed from several years ago where they said the time has come. The time has come for us to move these things out into the public theater. Well, I don't remember voting on it. I don't remember giving consent. You know, I have a problem with you putting things up there that's interfering and disrupting with the natural flow of energy from that upper space out there, where all that pure energy flows. I have a problem with you attempting to harness it and then redirect it around the planet in different ways that you see fit. And I have a right to oppose it. I have a right to voice that opposition as well. And I realize it's not a very popular position, and it's not a very popular thing to be talking about. Nobody wants to talk about this kind of stuff. This stuff isn't as fun as all that other stuff, but you know, to each his own. But I just can't not say or do anything when I capture stuff like this. And when you ignore my requests for answers, you leave me no choice but to do my own research and come to my own conclusions. And that is my conclusion that this, what I captured back in 2019, was possibly either the Dream Chaser or the X-37. God forbid it was the China one. Yeah, because you know what else can happen when you're going around and you're pulling down the energies from the upper atmosphere down here to ground level? You know what else can happen, people? It can cause illness. It can cause flu like symptoms. Keep that in mind. Heads up, folks. Please stay tuned. Know that I really appreciate you, especially right now. I really appreciate my black sheep. Y'all mean a lot to me and you matter. Please stay tuned. There's more to come if I can help it.